I should have noticed the little things sooner. The faint hum behind the dresser, the way my husband always glanced at me when I reached for my laptop, the way his mother lingered too long in the doorway when I thought I was alone. At first, I dismissed it, paranoia, exhaustion, overthinking. But when my reflection in the bedroom mirror caught a glint of something metallic near the ceiling corner, a cold knot formed in my stomach. Before I tell you my story, I want you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It didn't take long to find it. A tiny camera, hidden where no one would think to look, angled perfectly toward my bed. My hands shook as I held it, realizing what I had suspected all along. They weren't concerned about my safety. They wanted control. They wanted to watch. Every private moment, every word I whispered, every tear I shed, they wanted it all documented. I confronted him quietly that night. "Why would you do this?" I asked, my voice tight, trembling with anger I barely restrained. He smiled, that infuriating mixture of charm and patronization. "It's for your own good," he said. "We just want to make sure you're okay." I stared at him, cold fury simmering under my skin. I wanted to scream, to throw the camera at him, to make him feel the betrayal boiling in my veins. But I didn't, not yet, not until I had the advantage. Over the next few days, I observed them, careful to act as if nothing had changed. I let them believe they were invisible, that I was blind to their intrusions, but I wasn't blind. And I wasn't powerless. That's when the idea struck me, one that sent a thrill of dark anticipation through my chest. If they could watch me, I could watch them. If they thought they could control the narrative, I would flip the script entirely. I bought a small discreet camera online, one tiny enough to hide in the most unsuspecting place. I installed it in their shared office, angled so it would capture their private conversations, their scheming, and their true intentions. Finally, I felt a measure of control. The hunter had become the hunted, and the watchers were about to be exposed. Control. I began recording. Every whisper, every glance, every subtle manipulation. I knew this wasn't just about catching them in a lie. It was about understanding the depth of their betrayal, about seeing the real motivations behind the smiles they presented to the world. The thrill of anticipation was addictive. Each day I watched the footage, my heart pounding as I caught them in small, incriminating moments, laughing at my discomfort, plotting strategies to isolate me, reinforcing each other's control over my life. I realized something in those first few hours of footage. They thought they were clever. They thought they had me figured out, but they didn't understand one thing. I had patience. I had planned, and I had a camera. They didn't know the truth. And when they finally did, they would regret ever underestimating me. The first night I watched the footage from the camera I planted in their office, I felt something inside me harden. It wasn't shocking anymore. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity, cold, sharp, unforgiving. I finally saw what they looked like when they thought no one was watching. Their smiles dropped, their voices lowered, their eyes sharpened with calculation. My husband sat at his desk, leaning back as if he owned the world. His mother stood beside him, arms crossed, wearing that expression she reserved only for me: disapproval, superiority, and something darker beneath. "She's getting suspicious," his mother said. "You need to control her better, not support it. Not protect. Control." He rubbed his temples. "I know, that's why the camera is there. She keeps acting unpredictable. A word people use when they want to justify taking your freedom." His mother clicked her tongue. "It's for the best. A woman like her needs structure. If she steps out of line, we'll have it on record. Evidence. Something to use against me." The knot in my throat tightened, but I forced myself to keep watching. "She won't leave," my husband added. "She's too dependent." The casual confidence in his voice burned. Too dependent? I worked. I paid bills. I cared for myself long before he existed in my life. But he spoke like I was a burden he tolerated out of generosity. "That's exactly why we need this," his mother replied. "If she ever tries to make trouble, we'll show everyone what she's really like." So that was the plan. Not concerned. Not love. Reputation, control, manipulation. Small incidents suddenly made sense. The objects she moved, the questions she asked, the comments she made to relatives. She wasn't just meddling. She was building a case. A narrative. A version of me that would justify whatever they wanted to do next. I watched another clip. My mother-in-law sat alone this time, scrolling on her phone. She muttered, if only she'd lose her temper again. Something big. Something we can use. She wanted to provoke me. Push me. Break me just enough so I looked unstable. Then another video. My husband leaned close to her, whispering, if she acts out, we'll have everything we need. And once my promotion goes through, it'll be easier to get rid of her quietly. Get rid of me. Quietly. My stomach twisted, but I didn't look away. I needed every detail, every motive, every dangerous intention they whispered behind closed doors. They didn't want a partner. They wanted a puppet, a problem they could control, silence, or discard. But they didn't know I was listening now. And every second they revealed more, they were handing me the weapons I needed. The dark satisfaction pulsed through me, not joy, not relief, but power. The kind of power you earn after being pushed, cornered, and underestimated. Soon, they would realize just how wrong they had been. The moment I had been waiting for came quietly, without fanfare. I had been reviewing the latest footage from the office camera late at night, my eyes bloodshot from hours of watching their secrets unfold. And then it hit me, one small slip they didn't know I had caught, one crack in their careful facade. My mother-in-law, always so precise, had left her phone unlocked on the desk. I leaned closer to the screen. Her messages to a close friend were there for me to see. Everything is going according to plan. She suspects nothing. By next month she'd be begging to leave. I felt my heart pound. This was it. Proof not just of manipulation, but of a deliberate, ongoing plot to control and humiliate me. I didn't act immediately. Patience was my weapon now. I began documenting every single new interaction. My husband still thought he was clever, still thought he could continue his scheme. He whispered in the kitchen, if she finds out, it'll ruin everything. Completely unaware that I was recording not only him, but every movement in their home, every whispered strategy. The turning point wasn't just that I had proof, it was how clear their intentions had become. I saw their plan fully, from start to finish. They weren't merely watching me, they were attempting to manipulate my reputation, to isolate me, to undermine every choice I made. They wanted me trapped in a reality of my own home, surveilled, judged, and powerless. For the first time, I felt a fierce clarity, a focus that had nothing to do with fear. Fear had been their tool, and I refused to give it back. I started plotting my next steps carefully. I decided to let them believe their scheme was still working. I acted as though I had no idea, smiling, playing the perfect role of a wife who hadn't noticed a thing. And all the while, the camera in their office was my silent ally, capturing every expression, every plan, every overconfident whisper. I could see the cracks beginning to form. My husband, thinking he had me cornered, started leaving little hints of his own frustrations. My mother-in-law became slightly careless, speaking too freely, laughing too loudly at her own cleverness. Each of these mistakes was gold, evidence, fuel for the inevitable reveal. I realized that the power had shifted, quietly, invisibly. They had tried to trap me, but in doing so, they had exposed themselves completely. Now, I had everything I needed to control the narrative, to ensure that their intentions would not remain hidden, and that their arrogance would be their undoing. The thrill wasn't about revenge, yet it was about anticipation. I was preparing for the moment when I would no longer be the watched, the controlled, the underestimated. That moment was coming, and when it arrived, they would be blindsided. I woke up the next morning with a strange calm, the kind that comes when a storm has already formed, and all you have to do is walk straight into it. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't confused or angry. I was ready. And readiness has a way of sharpening every detail around you. My mother-in-law was in the kitchen when I walked in. She didn't even look at me at first, too busy whispering into her phone. She's getting more distant. I think she's finally breaking. She said it so casually, as if discussing the weather. I stood behind her long enough for the camera in the corner to record every word. Then I cleared my throat. She flinched. "You're up early," she said, masking her surprise with that sweet, weaponized smile she always used. "I've been thinking a lot," I replied, keeping my voice steady, "about this house. This marriage, everything." The smile faded just a little. She wasn't sure yet, but she sensed something shifting. When my husband walked in, the tension doubled. He was tired, irritated, and already on edge. "We need to talk," he said, like he owned the moment. I almost laughed. They had no idea how badly they were about to lose control. He gestured toward the living room, the same room where their secret camera watched me every day. They thought that room was their kingdom, their vantage point. But now, knowing what I knew, it felt more like a stage. So I stepped onto it. "What's going on with you?" he asked, crossing his arms. "You've been acting strange." That was the moment. The perfect opening. "Strange?" I repeated. "Maybe it's because someone installed a camera in my room without my consent." His eyes widened. Not with guilt yet, but with fear that I knew. He tried to recover. "It's not what you think," my mother-in-law jumped in. "We were worried about you. You've been forgetful." The hypocrisy almost stunned me. "You mean like when you move my belongings and pretend I misplaced them?" I asked. "Or when you whisper about my condition to your friends? Or when the two of you sit in your office and talk about how to make me compliant?" They both froze. And then I delivered the blow. I recorded everything. My husband's face drained of color. My mother-in-law's hands trembled slightly, just enough to confirm everything I already knew. They were guilty, and the fear was finally theirs. He tried to take a step toward me, maybe to intimidate, to negotiate, but I stopped him with a single sentence. "I've backed up all the footage. If anything happens to me, if anything goes missing, if you try anything at all, it gets sent directly to the police." Silence. Heavy. Breathless. For the first time since this nightmare began, I watched them scramble. I watched their confidence collapse. The confrontation wasn't loud. It didn't need shouting. The truth was louder than anything they could say. And I hadn't even begun the real dismantling yet. After that confrontation, the house fell into a suffocating silence. My husband and his mother avoided me, whispering behind closed doors, scrambling to figure out how much I knew and how much damage I could cause. They didn't realize that their panic only pushed me closer to the finish line. I had everything I needed: the recordings, the files, the footage from their camera, the footage from mine, and every ugly conversation they thought I would never hear. But I knew privately exposing them wasn't enough. They didn't deserve a quiet downfall. They deserved accountability. The kind that couldn't be twisted, explained away, or buried behind their fake concern for my well-being. The opportunity came faster than I expected. My husband had a mandatory marriage counseling session scheduled for the court after he falsely filed a complaint suggesting I was unstable. They expected the counselor to recommend monitoring, maybe even a psychological evaluation. They planned everything, confident they had me cornered. Perfect. Let the stage be theirs. I would bring the audience. When we entered the counselor's office, they acted exactly how I predicted. My husband spoke with forced frustration, his mother with carefully performed sadness. They painted me as forgetful, reactive, and emotionally unpredictable. The counselor watched them closely, not judging, just listening. That was all I needed her to do. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. "I'd like to show something," I said, placing a small USB on the table. "A few recordings from the last 2 weeks." My husband stiffened. His mother inhaled sharply. The counselor nodded. "Go ahead." The first video appeared on the screen. My mother-in-law whispering into the kitchen phone, telling someone she was trying to push me over the edge, laughing about how paranoia makes her easy to control. Then came the footage of the two of them in their office, discussing the secret camera in my room, gloating about how they would use it to collect evidence of instability. And finally, the recording of them planning how to provoke me, moving objects, hiding my things, accusing me of forgetting, encouraging my husband to gaslight me until I doubted myself. The room went still. The counselor's expression hardened from neutral to shocked disbelief. My husband lunged toward the USB, but the counselor held up a hand. "Sit down." It was the first time someone spoke to him with authority, and he didn't know how to handle it. My mother-in-law began crying, not out of regret, but out of fear that years of control were slipping out of her hands. The counselor looked at me. "Do you have more?" "I have everything backed up," I replied. "This is only the highlight reel." That was when the cracks finally shattered. My husband tried to blame his mother. She blamed him back. They turned on each other with frantic speed, exposing even more of their conspiracy just to save themselves. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. The counselor ended the session early and filed an immediate report for psychological abuse, manipulation, and privacy violations. She advised me to leave the home until the investigation concluded. I walked out of that building lighter than I had felt in months. Back at the house, I packed my bags without a word. They watched helplessly, unable to demand, command, or insult. Not anymore. At the door, I looked back at them one last time. "You use surveillance to control me," I said quietly. "But surveillance saved me and destroyed you." Then I left. Their power was gone. Their plan was exposed. And their downfall was recorded, just like everything else.